Hello and welcome. My name is James Dearsley on behalf here of What House and basically the What House Show, which is up here, which is going live in a little under 2 weeks now on the 27th and 28th of September. So it's very, very much fast approaching. And really this is a show down in the Brighton Hilton and the Hilton Metropole right on the seafront there, where we've got a whole list of developers and agencies coming down there to hopefully share with you their experiences and their offerings. And there's everything from UK domestic property through to land and new homes departments through to overseas property developers, and that's what I'm very pleased to be joined here by Jennette Bradbury of the Egyptian Experience today. And Jennette, maybe I can just sort of put it to you really, and just to talk briefly about this Egyptian property market. I mean, obviously Egypt's been in the news of late for some time, maybe the last couple of years, and so where's the Egyptian property market today? How's it getting on?
Hi James, just like to say we're really looking forward to taking part in the What House exhibition and promoting Egypt, as we believe it is, very up and coming still, a market to invest for the overseas investor. Egypt has, as everybody knows, gone through a bit of a turmoil in the last 3 years, but it really is back on track now, and I think people are feeling a lot more confident, and the Egyptian people themselves are very optimistic for the future of Egypt, and it's a very exciting place to invest in.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, as ever, the media sort of focuses on one small part of Egypt. I mean,
yeah.
The property market, I mean, in my experience, it's nowhere near the sort of the heights of where all the problems were. So, I mean, where are the main areas that you think people should be looking at buying a property in Egypt? What are your best tips on that?
Sharm el-Sheikh has been popular for investors for the last 6-7 years now, really, and of course it was one of the top winter sun resorts. Hurghada's popular. Marsa Alam's a little bit remote still for the overseas investor to live in, and apartment rentals and things like that, getting a good return on your investment for rentals. But Luxor is very much up and coming. It has been very much away from the troubles as well, as in fact all of the Red Sea has. So, the potentials there for growth are very good at the moment.
Because, I mean, yeah, let's just put that into perspective, really, because obviously the problems have been Cairo orientated, and as you say, Sharm el-Sheikh for the last 6 or 7 years has been popular. The likes of Hurghada, I'm familiar with that, some may not be. Where are we talking about geographically from, say, Cairo? I mean, how far away are we talking? I mean, it's several hours, I presume.
Yes, of course. The main troubles have been in Cairo, as you quite rightly say, but then even only isolated in Cairo, because of course there's 20 million people live in Cairo, so the number of people involved in the disputes has been pretty limited, unless it's been out to sort of support the current government. Alexandria is another place that's been touched with a few of the troubles. Again, it's a big major city with employment problems. But the Red Sea, for example, Sharm, is a 6-hour drive away from Cairo. Hurghada's 3 to 4 hours. Luxor's pretty impossible to drive from Cairo to Luxor. There is an overnight train and a train service, which also makes it quite popular. And there is talk about having a railway from Luxor to Hurghada or Marsa Alam, around that area. Marsa Alam is about a 3 to 4 hour drive from Hurghada, and are all along that stretch, really from Cairo to Marsa Alam. There are good opportunities for investment. Sharm is on the Sinai Peninsula, of course, so it's very much isolated and can be better controlled as well. So yeah, it's a very exciting place with lots of opportunities and lots of different areas.
That's it, isn't it? And it's also, if I'm correct, I mean, the Egypt property market, it's particularly international, isn't it? It's not, the Brits aren't an overriding force here. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, sort of Egypt bridges the Europe and Asia property markets. Is that a fair assumption to make?
Yes, it is, absolutely. I mean, in Luxor, we've sold to Belgium, Spanish, Italians, so as well as predominantly British, but also Egyptians living overseas. That's a good market as well at the moment in Egypt. In Sharm, you've got lots of Saudis investing there, as you have Kuwaitis and things like that in in Kuwait, in Hurghada. So there's lots of foreign investments going on, lots of very exciting projects as well to be involved in. Italians and Germans have been very popular in the Hurghada area. So yes, Russians, the Japanese are going to start taking tours to Luxor and ancient Egypt from September as well. So that's very exciting news for Egypt.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of these sort of, I often think it's a particularly undiscovered market, and I think people need to understand a little bit more about it. I mean, and on that basis of understanding, have you got sort of 2 or 3 tips you'd like to share with people about looking at property in Egypt? What are your sort of top tips that when they're considering that purchase, what should they look out for?
First of all, check out your developer, especially if you're buying off plan. Make sure they've got a track record of delivering quality apartments on time. And when I say delivering on time, that's just not the apartment you're buying, but the surrounding area, that the swimming pool is complete, because there's nothing worse than going and taking over your apartment, finding lots of faults with it, and not really being able to step outside and enjoy the surrounding area. So make sure that they have a track record of building and finishing, but to a standard, and that the gardens and the swimming pools are finished at the same time as your apartment will be. So you can go, first of all, take it over and have a wonderful holiday at the same time.
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the most important bits of advice for anybody considering that overseas property purchase,
Yes.
which is it's not just looking at the developer on that particular development you are looking to buy and making
Yes.
sure the phased release of each phase is due, when it's due, how it's due, what the rollout of each development is going to be, but also look back at the history of that developer as well, I would say,
Absolutely.
and look at what they've delivered. Is that, I mean, because I'm assuming here, Jennette, so excuse me if I'm wrong here, that most of these Egyptian developers, I mean, it's not a first-time thing. They've probably done several more before that. So would you advise people to go and look at the quality of finishes of other developments they've done previously as well?
I think you should always do your homework properly before and look at everything, just like you would if you were buying in the UK. It's the same principle. Check the property out, check who's got it for sale, etc. Check, we don't have surveys in Egypt, but you can do your own surveys quite easily. Check that it's been also built for the residential tourist market and not a local market. That is also important, because that if you buy something for the residential tourist market, then it has to come with a 10-year build guarantee, which is also quite important. And you can tell that as well by the fact that most residential tourist resorts are only built on 20% or 25% of the land, whereas a residential resort, predominantly built for Egyptians, is built on 65% of the land.
There we are. I mean, that's common. Sort of, we almost could call it the build density, don't we? I mean, the build
Yes.
density of a development is so vastly important, especially to overseas developers, because that feeling of being hemmed in is not as great when you're buying a holiday home. But I mean, 20 to 25%. That's a really generous
It is.
land sort of build density, isn't it? I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yes, because of course you do need it to have a swimming pool, you do need it to be in nice surroundings, and predominantly people are buying this as somewhere to go for a holiday or to spend their time in a very, very nice environment. And we know what high-rise blocks of flats look like, one on top of the other. And of course the 65% build will also include the road as well. So yeah, and the other thing is as well that residential tourist resorts are only normally 3 or 4 blocks high.
Yeah.
Stories high, sorry. So they're only 3 to 4 stories high. And again, that makes a big difference to sort of the total ambiance of it all. Another factor to take into account really is the square meterage of an apartment. Now, all our apartments, we use the European method, where it is the actual square footage or square meterage of the apartment itself. But in Egypt, they measure it with a percentage of the staircase and the surrounding area. So that's something else, for buyers to take into account as well.
Well, thanks, Jennette. I mean, what you've just said there, it typifies the reason why in an exhibition like at the What House Show,
Yes.
people need to come and have a chat with the experts, because doing this sort of thing alone, you know, buying something overseas, buying a property overseas, it is one of the most joyous things you'll ever do.
Yes.
Rather than having your money stuck in a bank account, earning 0.5% interest versus having a usable investment that you can go and you can sit in the evenings and have a glass of wine overlooking the veranda and the lake in front of you, or the pool, or whatever it might be. There is nothing better in my mind in terms of investment from an overseas property perspective.
No.
But you've got to do your research.
Yes, it is your home in the sun after all. You know, it's an investment, yes, but it is your home in the sun.
It's fundamentally the principles of buying. The little tiny nuances of buying in Egypt over France, or Egypt over Dubai, or something like that. It's only when talking to people like you, Jennette, that people will fully understand why they want to be buying in Egypt over everywhere else. And so I think it's just fundamentally important. So,
well, the weather is also important as well in Egypt. We do have sun all the year round. It does get little bit hot in the summer months, but then you have your air conditioning and you have your swimming pools. And Egypt does have so much to offer. I mean, the Red Sea is just glorious, with this, you know, clear blue skies, clear blue seas, beautiful sandy beaches. You put your head under the water and it is a mass of colour, with corals and fishes, and super for diving. But then you've also got the complete contrast in places like Upper Egypt, such as Luxor, where you've got 4,000 years worth of history, with the temples and the tombs. And again, that also has so much to offer. And, you know, Luxor is where Thomas Cook started his travel company, with tours of interest. So it really is a country of great contrast and great investment opportunities.
Yeah, that's very true. And I only hope that on the weekend of the 27th and 28th, that the Brighton beach somehow compares to what you've just described. Although I do think that if I dive into the sea at Brighton Beach,
it might not be so colourful.
Be decidedly grey, I should think.
But I think it's very important, you know, just to note as well while we're chatting, that we'd be very happy to speak to anybody about Egypt, even if they want to just rent apartments or go there for a holiday. We're very open to to chat to anybody about anything.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, that's great, Jennette. And just, I think you're on stand P12, if I'm...
We are, yes.
There we are, lovely. So to finish on that, that's Jennette there, obviously talking from Egyptian experience about, hopefully, what you can understand a little bit more about the property market in Egypt, and how, should you come to the What House Show, you can talk to Jennette and her team there about buying a property in Egypt, because obviously, go and talk to the experts. That's why they're there. They're always happy to share information about all this sort of stuff. So, final thing, 27th and 28th, Hilton Metropole in Brighton. It starts, I think, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and ends at 5 o'clock on both the Saturday and the Sunday. There's a massive array of developers and speakers in seminars, so we hope you'll join us there, and no doubt we'll hopefully see you then. So thank you, Jennette. I really appreciate your time, and see you soon.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.